Howdy, folks. Widget Walls from NeedCoffee.com here. Back again for another Wayhomer review. Here's how it works for the uninitiated. I have just left the cinema where I have seen a film. That might help. And I'm going to tell you about that film on my way home. Because it's just easier and it saves time. So today we are here to talk about Zero Dark 30. Okay, so, synopsis. Well, let's see. There was a very terrible, horrible, unbelievable, life-changing, world-changing sort of day called September 11th. Which, and I'm not trying to be funny by saying all of that is quite true. And basically you had a few thousand people killed in New York City, and a particular person by the name of Osama bin Laden took responsibility for that particular act, and as a result put himself on the radar of pretty much everybody and his brother Bob. Well, not everybody and his brother Bob, but probably everybody, and you know what I'm saying. There were some people who didn't want him to be found. There were people that wanted him to be found, and thus, giant manhunt of everyone looking all over the world for Osama bin Laden. So, the synopsis is, yes, you have this insane manhunt going on with basically American intelligence forces trying to divine where the hell the guy is, because he appears to have dropped off the face of the earth. And this is going on with political things happening in the background and other terrorist attacks happening and pressure and whatnot, but that is what passes for a synopsis. They want to find the most wanted man on the planet. So there's your synopsis. Now, before I begin, let me establish the ground rules for where this review is coming from. Because I'm reviewing a movie, okay? I'm not reviewing the military, I'm not reviewing the politics, I'm not reviewing the real-world situation. I'm not qualified to do that. I'm barely qualified to drive and improv into a camera at the same time. So if you've come here for some startling, spoken word essay on the state of torture and terrorism and politics and whatnot, I'm so very sorry. It's not going to happen. But no, so all of that being said, that we're talking about just the movie here, so please, feel free to comment on anything else that you like. I'll ignore you. But as far as the movie goes, let that be said. Now, we're talking about the movie. Now, here's the problem with talking about the movie, is that the movie, and I don't know how accurate the movie is, but the movie purports to be based on the real world manhunt, and, spoilers, sorry, it's in the freaking trailer, and it's recent history, so how could this be spoilers? They get him, okay? So, basically, you have this whole story taking place. It is a real-life story. We all know bits of it. This purports to give us more bits of it. And so it's supposed to be very, very close to, like, docudrama type of stuff, right? So, on one hand, you go, okay, well, if this is supposed to be very close to real life, I think there's one thing that we all know and appreciate about real life. And that real life, for the most part, is not gripping, nor is it engaging, nor is it particularly interesting. The main problem that people have with cop shows is that where's all the paperwork, right? I mean, that's what I always hear, is that like 90% of their time is dealing with paperwork and other stuff like that. But if you actually had a realistic cop show called, Law and Order Paperwork, no one would watch it. It would be boring as hell, and no one would care. So, of course, you cut out all that stuff, and you assume that, you know, the people behind Law and Order, not only do they take every kind of case into the world, but they have paperwork fairies that make everything work and make the show watchable. So, my conundrum is this, that coming at this film, knowing it's a real-life sort of drama, yes, but yet it's purported to be and billed as, oh, it's the real story behind the greatest manhunt in all of history. On one hand, real life equals not very gripping and engaging, and actually rather boring. But greatest manhunt in history sounds fairly exciting and gripping, and not even not even like Hollywooded up type of gripping. But you're figuring, okay, if this is the greatest manhunt in all of history, or however I'm probably mixing up my words there. I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. My problem is this: I wasn't very gripped, and I don't say that to like downplay the fact that it basically opens, you know, with 9/11, you know, done relatively tastefully. I don't want anyone to think that there's, you know, some, I don't know, kind of like Hollywooded up, jazzed up sort of 9/11, the musical type of thing going on. But I mean, I don't want you to think that I wasn't like on board with tension at that point. I was. And I think my problem is that because you have this long span of basically 10 years, right? 10 years that the movie takes you through, with varying characters and varying situations on a hell of a lot of locations. My problem is that I was never really with anybody long enough, not even the main character, to get gripped, if that makes any sense. It felt very jumpy. It felt like, even though I knew that all of these little vignettes and little tidbits were all supposed to be connected with a through line of get Osama bin Laden, and were supposed to be connected by the Jessica Chastain character, it all felt so very disconnected that I couldn't really get any traction with it. And like I said, it's not like I wanted the Michael Bay Osama bin Laden story, but I mean, it is a film, and I wanted something to kind of pull me through it, especially when you have so many different characters that you don't know who they are, and they might be interesting if you spent any time with them. It's like there's, a Muslim guy in the CIA who you meet when he's doing his prayers, and I think you maybe see him one more time. I'm like, well, he seems like a very interesting character. Who the hell are you? Who are you? Wait, no, you're gone. Where did you go? You have one of my favorite parts of the film, which was the most tough to watch, but the character was so fascinating, was Jason Clarke. He plays the interrogator. You've seen him in the trailer, no doubt. But he is a fascinating character, and we don't get enough time with him. I felt bad when I was not spending time with him, because I'm like, you're fascinating. And so, but there were so many bits going on. Oh, and it wasn't helping when you say stuff like the ISI really screwed you on that deal. Who? The who? I had no idea who they were. I almost feel like, you know what I almost feel like? I feel like that I would have enjoyed the film more if I had watched a documentary about the same subject, taking me through the same, because I mean, I knew 9/11, I knew about 7/7, I knew about, the Marriott bombing, I knew about the events, but so much of what was going on behind it, I'm not even talking about the top secret things that are just being revealed in this film, I'm talking about just the story about who all the players were and what was happening. I felt like lost at times. which didn't help to keep me in the film and gripped, right? So, and the film didn't feel like it was there to instruct me on it, and maybe that's not its job, okay? But I felt sort of like I was just waiting for something to take hold and carry me through it. And just when you think you would get something, like Mark Strong would show up and you'd be like, wow, that was great. Or Jessica Chastain would have a great moment, or whatever. You'd have these moments where you think, all right, now it's starting, now it's on. But it doesn't actually get on until, again, they make a big point of this in the trailer. No spoilers here. There's a raid, okay? The raid is intense and amazing and kind of crazy. And can I say extraordinarily loud for a raid that's supposed to be sneaky? But I know in real life, it's probably like, if you're flying in with helicopters and stuff like that, how sneaky can you possibly be? But still rather loud, I would think. I would love to hear somebody who actually knows about such things comment. Because I'm thinking everybody in that entire, what passes for a zip code, would have been like, what the hell is that noise? But anyway, so you have the raids, which actually felt like a coherent section, which felt like, a through thing, which took me through it, where I wasn't jumping around all over the place, and I actually felt like, okay, I can actually be with some characters and see something happen. Even though I didn't know half of the soldiers involved didn't have names, didn't really have characters, except for being, guy with gun number 5, I felt more connected to them than I did with people who actually had names and who I'd spent time with, which is weird, okay? Now, all of that to be said, it's extremely well acted, all right? Jessica Chastain has, in moments, there's bursts of really good moments. James Gandolfini and Mark Strong, and especially Jason Clarke every time he's on the screen, and Jessica Chastain. They even have Harold Perrineau in there, who is like one of my favorite underused actors of all time, who needs to be in everything. I mean, you have a really great cast, but we spend so little time with everybody, it feels like this needed to be like, I don't know, like a mini-series or something. I just felt cheated. If anything, I felt cheated because I felt there was a bigger story going on that the feature film format didn't do it justice. Because I feel like all of these players, even if they're fictionalized versions of the players, deserved more time and deserved to be more than just your entire character note is that you're the reluctant, in-the-field operative who has to be coerced into doing something. So I mean, that's my thing. And it's, like I said, it's a very difficult film to review because I'm constantly having to remind myself, no, we're just talking about the film. Because I don't want to review anything else involved with it. I don't want to review the real life. I don't review real life. That's for people with, degrees in something other than English. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what it boils down to. Is that if it comes across as a well-acted, well-intentioned, disjointed mess that, I don't know, for a story like that, it feels like it should have had more going on. Not even more going on, because there was a lot going on. There should have been more context for what was going on. The more going on, maybe there should have been less going on so that we could spend more time talking about what was going on instead of just trying to plow through it and get to the raid, which is what it felt like. It's almost like you remember in Saving Private Ryan, where you watch Saving Private Ryan and the opening D-Day section was absolutely overwhelming and blew you away. And as a result, it carried you through the momentum of the rest of the film. Not saying the rest of the film was bad, but I mean, it really colored the rest of the film for you. The rest of the film, on your first viewing, could have been like, animated stick people, and you probably would have thought the film was amazing because the opening section was so incredible. Well, it's like this. It's like that film was created strictly to get Spielberg to do a D-Day section. It's almost like this was just created to give Catherine Bigelow a chance to stage the Osama bin Laden raid. Because it feels like that was really well executed, and the rest of it was just sort of like, well, we need to hit these points until we get to actual people with night vision goggles and green lasers. That's what it felt like. And as a result, it felt like the story was ill-served. And it feels like it should have been a bigger story. I almost feel like it would have done better with a feel like they brought to, say, the original Traffic miniseries, where you had different things going on in different places and different points of view, but it stayed solid. Or even the real-life feel of The Insider, right? Because that actually, that took what was an incredibly dry subject and was able to, make it hum, at least as far as I was concerned. So, I mean, that's my thing. I mean, I don't think it was bad, because I think the cast and that last section kind of elevated it, but I think for the most part it was just sort of there. And I don't know that story needs to be just there. And yes, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's the question of torture, and the question of lethal force used in the raid, and there's all these questions they sort of touch on. But I don't feel like, I think if you're actually saying, oh, well, that was an amazing question that they asked, it's almost like you're bringing that question to the table. It's not like they had enough of the way in cards on the table to almost warrant the asking. I mean, they didn't go in any direction, and I wasn't trying to get them to take some kind of moral stand on it. They just sort of presented what they were saying happened, but it just felt sort of touched upon and rushed like everything else. Any questions that you might have about the really horrible things that you're seeing, some of which are being done by supposedly the good guys. So, that felt ill-served as well. So I don't know. I'm sure other people will have different opinions. That's why there are other people. So yeah, I think cup-wise, I'm going to say 3 out of 5. I'm going to say that unless for some reason you are really into procedural military Tom Clancy stuff, you should probably, you'd be fine waiting until video. I don't think you're going to miss anything. And again, I'm not, not to put anything down from anybody who was actually involved in this stuff. I just think your story is a lot more interesting than this film is letting on. So there you go. 3 out of 5, and wait for video. That is the verdict. So there you go. That's another Wayhomer in the can. Thanks so much for watching, for all of you who do watch these things. And if you do, take a moment. And if you would, especially if you're on the Need Coffee site, which if you're not, you should go to. We're nice people. If you do like this, do us a favor. Do me a favor specifically. I'm asking specifically you, sir or madam. Like this on Facebook, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, post it to Pinterest, whatever it is that you do. Feel free to do it with this, because that helps spread the word, and the word needs to be spread. So, again, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time on the Wayhomer Reviews. So, goodbye.